Hey everybody, today we've got the first 2026 governor prediction. It's a long way off. We've got a lot of questions, but a lot of people tend to enjoy these types of predictions. So even though we don't really know who's going to be running in a lot of these, we can take an early quick stroll through these states. So normally I start with the safe states and go down to the more competitive ones. But for this, because we've got so much time left, let's go through each state alphabetically and talk a little bit about each. Now my safe margins are usually 10 or more points. However, when you're this far out, it's also the confidence level. Now, I also tend to be cautious on a lot of my ratings. This is far from an actual prediction, but we've got 36 states to get through. Let's start in Alabama. Republican Kay Ivey is term limited. It's an open seat that's going to give Democrats a little bit better shot here if they have a great national environment. However, it's just so red at this point, I've got to keep it at safe regardless of who the candidates are. Next, in Alaska, this is going to be an open seat. Republican Mike Dunleavy is term limited. This one could give Democrats a potential opening. It's not the reddest state out there, and they've been known to do some different things for governor. I think if Democrat Mary Peltola runs for governor, then there's a chance this thing could flip. But for now, I'm going to say Republicans are going to have the edge. It's not going to be overwhelming, but I give it to them with a lead rating. Again, that's usually 5% or less. But at this point, in terms of confidence, it's just going to be a little bit of an edge for the Republicans. Next, in Arizona, this is going to be Democrat Katie Hobbs likely running for a second term. The state has gotten a lot more purple, but it did vote for Trump by a comfortable margin. However, I don't think Hobbs is that great of a candidate. Her popularity has not been great, but she's going to be the incumbent. The national environment might favor the Dems. The GOP might be looking at Karen Taylor Robson or Andy Biggs, and they could pick it up, but for right now, I'm going to leave this as a tilt for the Dems. Next, in Arkansas, we've got Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's going for another term. It's hard to imagine this getting overly competitive, let alone her losing. So this is going to start off as safe for Sanders. Then we've got California. This thing is wide open. Gavin Newsom, he's done. Maybe it's going to be Kamala Harris, or maybe it's going to be any one of the other ton of candidates that are running for this seat. The state could easily move to the right, but to get it truly competitive is going to be a different story. The national environment is again likely to favor the Dems. So we'll see if anything happens, but for right now, I think the most reasonable thing to do is start this at safe for the Dems. Next, Colorado. This is an open seat to replace Democrat Jared Polis. Whoever it is, the Democrat is going to be favored, but because it's an open seat, I'm going to put this at likely D. Next, in Connecticut. There's no term limits here. We're not sure if Ned Lamont is going to run again. There's a situation where this is more competitive for the GOP. Maybe you take it down to likely, but for now, I'm going to start this at safe for the Dems, and it's assuming it's going to be Lamont. Then we've got Florida. This state has definitely gotten a lot redder, but it's an open seat to replace Ron DeSantis. I think it's more likely to be Byron Donalds than not. In the general election, the Dems are going to put up somebody, but it's tough to not say the Republicans are going to be easily favored here. Because it's open, I can't put it at safe, but it's going to be more than leans. This is going to go likely for the Republicans. Next, in Georgia, another open seat to replace Brian Kemp. The state has gone to the left over the past decade. I don't think it should be Stacey Abrams for the Dems going for a third time, but you never know, it could be. Or it could again be Jason Carter as the nominee for the Dems. Republicans have a bench here. Maybe it's going to be Attorney General Chris Carr, but if the national environment is a blue wave, this seat could flip and be picked up by the Dems. For right now, with all the factors considered, I'm going to start it off as a tilt for the Republicans. Next, in Hawaii, it's super blue. Josh Green, very likely to win by a comfortable margin. It's going to go safe. In Idaho, Brad Little could run for another term here. If he does or he doesn't, I still think this state is just too red to not put at safe for the Republicans. Then we've got Illinois. Pritzker could run again here. Maybe he decides not to. Either way, the Dems are going to be heavily favored. So for now, it's going to start off as safe D. Then in Iowa, another state without term limits, Republican Kim Reynolds could run for another term. In the blue wave of 18, she was able to scrape out a win. Dems have a thin bench here. We're maybe looking at state auditor Rob Sand. So even though the state is fairly red on a presidential level, there's no guarantee this is going to be a slam dunk for the Republicans. Reynolds did coast to re-election last time, but the early rating here is going to be likely Republican. Then we've got Kansas. This has Democrat Laura Kelly, who's term limited. Given this is a fairly red state on a federal level, Republicans are going to be favored to actually flip this state back. But again, the national environment could get in their way. We got to see what happens, but for now, I actually think this is going to flip back and go toward the Republicans with a lean rating. In Maine, we're going to have another open seat to replace Janet Mills. Given that, there's a possibility that the state could flip, but because of that national environment, it's more likely the Dems are going to hold it. If Jared Golden runs for the Dems, I think he'd be likely to win. So you can maybe go leans on this, but I'm going to say that it's going to be likely for the Dems. Then on the East Coast, we've got Maryland. This is Wes Moore in a super blue state. Even if somehow Larry Hogan got off the bench and challenged Moore, this is going to be a safe D rating. It's going to be the same thing in Massachusetts. Maura Healey is going to get the safe rating. Then we come to Michigan. This is an open seat. That means it should be more competitive. There's still some questions we've got to answer about the primary, including Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, who's running as an independent. If that continues, that theoretically could pose a little bit of a challenge for the Dems. So it's tough to say, but I would think if Kamala Harris were in the White House, then it would be much more likely the Republicans would flip this. Because it's Trump in the White House, they could stick with the Democrats for governor for yet another term. So that's why this is going to start off at a tilt borderline lean rating. In Minnesota, we might have Tim Walz going for a third term here. There's a lot of questions here about how dominant Walz is going to be at this point in his career. So if Walz gets that elusive third term, that'd be a big deal. So for now, I'm going to start this off with a mild, likely D rating. In Nebraska, we've got Republican Jim Pillen. Maybe Dan Osborne, the independent candidate, makes a run. If he does, we'll reevaluate it. But for right now, this is going to be safe R. About Nevada, we've got Republican Joe Lombardo. I think Lombardo's popularity has been decent in this state. With the national environment, you cannot count Dems out on flipping this. But at this early point, I do think Lombardo is going to have enough to hold the state with a lean rating. In New Hampshire, we've got Kelly Ayotte, who just kind of got into office recently. It's really too early to have a fair assessment of how she would do in 26, but for now, we'll put it at likely R. In New Mexico, it's another open seat. So because of the lean of the state, I think it's likely to stay blue. So for that reason, we're going to put it at a borderline lean likely, but we're going to go likely D rating. How about in New York? Kathy Hochul running for another term. She's got to get through a primary, so there's some question marks there. It's really too early to say what the general election is going to be like. Hochul is going to try to position herself as the opposition to the Trump administration, but she won by a much lower margin back in 22. She's vulnerable, but this is New York. It's a pretty blue state. Even if it's moved toward the right, I'm going to put this rating at likely D. How about Ohio? This is an open seat to replace Mike DeWine. He also won by a narrow margin back in the blue wave of 18. This could be Vivek Ramaswamy for the Republicans against either Tim Ryan or Sherrod Brown for the Dems. It's too early to say, but the Republicans are going to be favored here. And we're going to start this rating off at likely R. In Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, the Republican, is term limited. It's likely to be the AG Gentner Drummond. Dems have plenty of time to have something develop in this state, but for now, this is going to be safe Republican. In Oregon, assuming Tina Kotek runs for re-election, she has some vulnerabilities as well, but the state is blue enough that it's going to be likely Democrat. Pennsylvania is Josh Shapiro, who I assume is going to run for re-election, even if he ends up running for president. He's popular enough, I would have to say he's going to be clearly favored to win re-election, but this is not some super blue state. It's going to go likely Democrat. In Rhode Island, this is Dan McKee. I don't think McKee is the strongest incumbent, but this is Rhode Island. Republicans really don't seem to gain any traction here, so this is going to be safe Democrat. In South Carolina, it's an open seat to replace Henry McMaster. Here you've got a bench of Republican candidates. You might even be looking at Nancy Mace. They're definitely going to be favored, but because it's an open seat and a potential blue wave environment, this is going to be likely Republican. In South Dakota, you've got new governor Larry Roden. He might run again, but if not, I don't think it matters that much. It's true this race was competitive in 2018. I could always adjust my rating later on, but for now, this is going to be safe Republican. In Tennessee, it's another open seat to replace Bill Lee, the Republican. So I was close to taking this down to likely, but this state is just red enough that I think either way, I'm going to put it at safe. In Texas, Greg Abbott is running for a fourth term. His popularity has fluctuated a little bit over the years, and it could dip down in the future. Dems have tried a bunch of different things in here. They can't seem to get over the hump. And after the 24 election, the thoughts of a blue Texas do seem much more unlikely. Now, governor is different than president, so there's a chance voters are just tired of Greg Abbott. But due to the lean of the state and due to Abbott's incumbency, this is going to go likely Republican. In Vermont, just like New Hampshire, there's only 2-year terms here for governor. At this point, Phil Scott will have been in there for 5 terms. If he retires, it's going to be wide open. If he goes for another term, it's hard to say this is not going to be extremely safe for Scott. So until something changes, that's the rating I'm going to leave it at. Then we've got Wisconsin. This is a purple competitive state. It's unclear if Tony Evers is going to run for a third term. If he doesn't, it's going to be a little bit more competitive. If he does, I would say he might have a bit of an edge. It's a little bit too early to seriously look at these candidates. So for right now, this rating is going to be tilt for the Dems. Finally, in Wyoming, it's going to be another open seat to replace Mark Gordon. This is one of the reddest states out there. It's tough to not put this rating at safe. So that's what I'm going to do. But as always, we're going to follow what happens in this and every other state. So that's the final map. And I think I'm pretty good with these early ratings. Dems should have at least a small edge. It could turn into a blue wave. If any of that happens, they're going to first be looking at pickups in Georgia, Alaska. Then you've got Nevada or Iowa or Ohio. But through all that, Republicans look like they're also going to have their own pickup in Kansas. Then they're going to be looking at Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan. But we've got more than a year and a half to go. When you're this far out, you've got to be prepared for a bunch of things to change. Candidates are going to get in and out of the race. Scandals could come up. The national environment is a big factor. We'll see what happens as we go, but your map is probably going to look just a little bit different than mine. So let me know in the comments. Do you mostly agree with these ratings, or do you disagree with 2 or 3, maybe 6 or 7 of them? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.